Good morning. We got it rolling. Following a senator, war hero, tough act to follow. What we're going to do is it's a brief overview of aerial UAV inspection we did of a well pad in Washington County for one of our main clients. As you can tell, UAVs are everywhere. I noticed you have a panel discussion tomorrow that's going to cover all applications of the use of UAVs. You see them used in real estate, surveillance, disaster inspections. I mean, you have an accident for, one of these wells has an explosion that you've seen in recent weeks. You can send a UAV in there to document what's going on and are there any injuries or, anything that you can do. Ours was, Google is using it. You see all these different companies are rushing to this business. This was our first foray into UAVs. We were partnered with a company called Roto Air. At the last minute, they couldn't make it. They were actually going to be the presenter, so you're stuck with me. How did we get started? Our most important client wanted us to look into this and really determine whether it was a viable solution for them to do their as-built of well pads. And what they were most concerned with was the economics and the quality that they would get. They wanted it done within a month, and the requirements were a bit too complex for us to get up to speed to do this economically in a month. Part of the reason for that is the requirements. First you need a pilot. We have a pilot. You need the UAV in the software, and you need this FAA 333 exemption, which that paperwork right now is supposed to take 90 to 120 days to get through, but it's backed up like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's probably going to take well over 120 days. And there's about 5,500 people that have received this exemption. So that's how many people are out there doing this commercially today. And there's been probably 1,500 that have been denied. So I would recommend, if you're going to go into this and file the necessary paperwork, you might want to get someone to help you to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Okay, the actual site that we did in Washington County, it was 60 acres. One of the things that was challenging about it was there was a 300-foot elevation change from where the access road entered the pad up into the top of the site where the water was held. What the output was georeference photo mosaics. It took us 5 ground control points to control the imagery of the aerial flight. The average ground sample distance was 1.35 inches, so every inch and a half we got a reading on the ground from this UAV flight. And the error was less than 2 inches for the RMS. The equipment that we used was a UAS quadcopter X3 gimbal. It had a 12 megapixel camera, and then we got into a lot of similar software that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. We used Esri ArcMap, Pix 4D, which deals completely with UAV aerial imagery. We used Autodesk Recap 360 to clean and refine the imagery, the surface that we got from the imagery. Autodesk Civil 3D to process and create the surfaces for the comparison. And Trimble R8, which we used to lay out the panel control points to control the flight. Very similar to conventional photogrammetry. This is the site in Google Earth. This imagery for Google Earth was probably two years old. You can see in the northwest corner there, they were already starting to grade the area do some earthwork for the pond of the well pad. That's the access road that you see coming into the pad. Now this is the imagery we just did in March, and as you can see, it's, well, the Google Earth is from a summer season flight. This was March of this year. So one of the things that we like about this is that you can see how the road network matches up. The buildings and other features were almost a direct overlay to Google Earth. And, well, with the exception of the color, the tones, it's a pretty good overlay. What you're seeing here is this is a point cloud that is one of the outputs of the system. If you all are familiar with high definition surveying or laser scanning, it's a very similar output of these points that are every 1.5 inches of the entire site. What you're seeing here is a thematic map of every elevation change is a different color from 10 meters. We told you there was about 300 feet difference, and if you look, there's about 9 or 10 bands of color there, which is around 300 feet. Something else that you see on here is you'll see it also picked up the trees and the tanks and other items. You'll see there are different colors on the, there's some tanks, there's some trees, there's some trees. That's part of what needs to be cleaned from the surface if you want a true surface model. That's what we use the Recap 360 to do, to clean that, clean those items out of there. Okay. One of the other applications that came about as a result of us doing this pilot project is what we did was we overlaid the design on top of the aerial imagery that we got from the as-built. And since the Department of Environmental Protection requires documentation that you haven't gone outside of your LOD or your permitted limit of disturbance, you can use this as a graphic to prove and to show that, look, we built this, there's our design LOD, which is that red line that goes around the site, and it is well within those limits. It's a little value add. Now what this is, again, since we were hired to prove that what they wanted was the economics of doing it with a UAV and also the quality of doing it with a UAV versus a conventional method. Normally, the way we would do an as-built for this customer, it would be to send survey teams out with conventional survey equipment and also GPS and total stations. They create break lines. Those are those darker solid lines that you see. They're basically at top of slope, toe of slope, edges of road, just basic photogrammetric changes in elevation lines. And then Civil 3D does a tin and a surface model that interpolates the contours between those break lines. Well, we did it conventionally, and then we compared the results of the UAV flight, and that's what you can see here. One is the brown lines and the other is the blue lines, and you can see we were well within tolerance of what we had done conventionally. And we honestly believe that the UAV is probably more accurate because there's so many more sample points. And we're basically interpolating between those break lines in the conventional method. And here we've done there's many, many, many more points to do that interpolation. This was one of the outputs. It's a georeference photo mosaic. It's real world. You can call this photo up on your Civil 3D or your GIS, and you can take measurements. It's all very accurate. And it's also a real representation of what was at the site and how it was on that particular day. Some of our results. Definitely you can produce an as-built in less time. It normally would take our surveyors 2 to 5 days to do a conventional survey of an as-built for a well pad. In this case, the UAV team got there and set the control out and did the survey within 4 hours. So 2 to 5 days versus 4 hours, fairly major. In our particular test, it was a minor cost savings because we compared the actual versus the cost. And since we used a contractor from New Jersey, they had some travel time and an overnight stay that were in their cost, so it kind of worked out to be a very similar amount. Certainly, if you had a volume of sites and you had a UAV, you could dramatically lower the cost of performing these type of as-builts. And we think there's also, well, obviously the accuracy, we proved that out. It's there. It's a very accurate method. There's, we believe, significant added value because you get, in the conventional, we would just get some regular photos taken from the surveyors and some points, and then we generate a drawing from that. And well, one of the things, it does require some people that understand how to deal with point clouds and that work with software like this and UAVs. You need a pilot and the other requirements of operating the UAV. Okay. What I'm going to try to show you now is, if I can get out of this, we have a little video of the flight.
I'll go back to that route directory.
Yep, trying to.
Yeah, just go ahead and minimize it.
I keep this thing a little bit.
There we go. Is there any audio with this? Or
No.
you're gonna narrate? Okay.
And what you'll see here, this is the drone flying over the site. You can see the access road, the vehicles that were on site while we were doing the survey. Very sharp imagery. You can see here's the tanks. You can see the erosion sediment control that also could be a benefit. See a rain garden over the hill there. There it is coming from another direction. Again, you can see the erosion sediment control that surrounds this berm, the site. See a lot of the equipment. You'll actually see some people moving around here. I think you can see that's one of our surveyors going to pick up a panel, one of the control points. And this is the pond at the top of the hill for the water. Very sharp imagery, and we think it's an excellent method to perform as-builts. We're in the process of, having our pilot go through the FAA. We're about 6 or 8 weeks into that, and as soon as we have that approval, we're going to purchase a drone and begin using it as one of our tools for survey. Here's these poor folks that live right underneath.
Dave, I don't know if you mind if I jump and ask a question.
Yeah.
What's the distance from the nearest house to the limits of disturbance? Just a couple hundred feet?
Yeah, it's hundreds of feet.
Wow.
Hey, it looked like it's more than 500 feet. Okay.
Oh, is this Cabot site? Sorry.
No. We don't do comments like that.
We were allowed to show it, we're not allowed to name the owner.
That's fine, that's fine.
Is
If
that,
you can tell, it's your deal.
is that a fresh water impoundment or is that a non-fresh?
It's fresh.
It's a fresh?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I think we do fresh water impoundment. That's not fresh.
Well, people locally here that we have, a lot of confidence in. Christine Isick is part of the committee here, and they're actually have a fairly good drone program if someone wants to try it out. There's a lot of other firms locally that are working with this as well. We hope to have it in the near term. We're just waiting for our FAA exemption. And Mara Aragonis. Mara, you want to stand up? Mara leads our GIS group at Keystone, and she did a lot of the work with the processing and working with this information. So, thank you.